Hi everybody, welcome to my fifth vlog for February 21st, 2011. And today we're going to talk about the first pillar of Project Acorn, which is the collaborative project that Waveplace is working with many others on to deepen existing laptop projects. The first pillar is assessment. And assessment is, the elephant in the middle of the room, the thing that we all talk about needing to do more of or needing to understand more. And depending where you fall on the ideological divide, assessment is, either a good or bad thing. Now, my hope is to sidestep all of the commentary regarding teaching to the test and true learning versus rote memorization, and simply say that for our purposes, assessment is gathering information that is useful to help continued learning or instruction. So, the chief metric is to help all participants at the level that they're involved to gain a better sense of where students are, where teachers are, where principals are, where schools are, so that they can better meet the challenges and help guide more effectively. Now that's a really big question, but what we're going to need to do is paint a picture of what kind of assessment that I'm talking about. I mean, here's the big problem. We're advocating a model of guided discovery, learning by doing, student-directed contextual learning. And we're doing this in places where the norm is strict rote memorization with very specific tests, standardized tests. And so the more we make our assessment measures look like standardized tests, the more we use the principles of standardized tests, the more the people who are learning the new paradigm will revert back to the old paradigm. In other words, rote assessment skews the results back to rote instruction. What we need is contextual alternative assessment that is grounded in things that are truly useful. In other words, things that help us do our job better. And all right, so then there's the other question, which is the question I get all the time, which is, can you prove it? Where's your data? All of this sounds really, wonderful, but where's the beef? Show me the results. So there is a secondary purpose in doing assessment, which is to convince the naysayers, to help projects scale by making their benefits self-evident to a wide variety of audiences. Okay, but the primary use has to be to promote learning, to learn from experience and let teaching environments, learning environments, student-teacher interaction, student-student interaction evolve and improve over time by essentially asking the right questions. And that's what it all comes down to. Okay, so this is all very kind of, abstract. Let's dive into some specifics. Let's say I'm teaching writing. And, there's two ways that I can tell whether my fourth graders are learning how to write. I can either give them a grammar test that asks them, which is the better sentence, and really kind of mirrors the facts that I'm trying to present. So the facts of grammar are that you don't use commas like periods. You don't that you have to follow the different noun phrase, verb phrase structure. You have to uh, better writing uses more description. These kinds of things. Okay, so there are different ways that we can write tests to see whether students have an understanding of this by essentially giving them meta tests, which is, regurgitate the meta lesson. Right? The meta lesson is, this is what a run-on sentence is. Okay? The meta test is, which of these sentences has a run-on sentence? And neither of them are very useful in really determining assessment. What's useful in determining assessment is actually having the kids write and then noticing which kids are using run-on sentences. Practice is the true test. And then observation by the mentor, by the teacher, of the behavior is real assessment. Everything is grounded in that connection. When a long time ago, when I was talking to the guy that made Squeak E-Toys, Alan Kay, and he was advocating this mentoring approach, I asked him, well, what about assessment? How do you do assessment in essentially, completely contextual guided discovery manner? And his example was, as a jazz guitar instructor, he would know where a student is just by sitting down with them and just working with them for about 10-15 minutes, because he has a love for what he is teaching. He has experience for what he is teaching. He can just sit down and really know where they are, know where they need work, know what they're excelling at, and so forth. And that one-on-one relationship, to my mind, is truly effective assessment. And one of the reasons why Wayplace has always advocated a pretty favorable student-teacher ratio, like 1:4, where the mentors actually have a chance at actually getting to know each of the kids pretty well. So this is the ideal. What do we learn from the ideal? Well, number one, to my mind, true teaching, true learning comes from being able to listen to the student, being able to see where they are. Now, obviously, you have a prerequisite of experience, but the further we get away from that authenticity, that connection between student and teacher, between and it doesn't even have to be explicitly student and teacher. When we're talking about peer mentoring, peer learning, somebody that has more experience with somebody that has less experience working together, and the person with more experience is guiding the person with less experience by perceiving where they are and giving them contextual, useful information and believable encouragement. And the review, the mark of progress as things move forward, is grounded in where the student actually is and what actual accomplishments the student is making over the course of time. So that's the foundation piece, which is one mentor, one student, growing together towards the student having, and presumably the mentor as well, more experience. Okay, so in the next video I'm going to talk about how do we scale up to the next level.